Hey guys, what's up? It's Katie, and I'm back with another Marvel Contest of Champions video, and today we are continuing the Act 5 series with 5.3.6, Fitting Punishment. So now I'm making this Act 5 series for a few reasons. The first is I want to refamiliarize myself with Act 5 because I've gotten a lot of questions about it, and it's been quite some time since I've been through it, so it's kind of hard to remember. And also, I've got some friends that have started playing this game, and I know there are a lot of new new players out there who have just joined the game and are looking for some good Act 5 content. So the first thing I want to do is go over this spreadsheet here. Now there will be a link in the description to this spreadsheet, so you can go ahead and click on it and take a look at it. I have all the paths laid out. So with Act 5.3.6, there are 5 paths. They're all color coded, so you can go ahead and take a look at them, but they have all the mobs that you will be facing and what nodes those mobs have. Now there is also a description of all the nodes as well as the boss with what nodes that he has. So, that way you can kind of take a look at it, know what you're going to be facing, build your team around it. So speaking of building your team around it, there is also a map right here. So you can go ahead and click on the link to the map. It'll open it up and you can go ahead and download it, use it to your advantage, go ahead and see which paths you're ready to take, that sort of thing, what mobs you'll be facing, what champs you should bring in for it, and that sort of thing. You'll be able to and this is a live spreadsheet, so I will be making updates to it as we go through. So if you have any, suggestions to add to it, just let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and take a look at them and potentially add them. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at 5.3.6. Now the global buff for this is split atom, so all classes but science reduce their attack by 50%. So like the other chapters in 5.3, this chapter requires you to have a diverse roster. This is the one where you need to bring in your science champs. Now, I do think that this chapter is the easiest of the last couple, at least for me it was, but of course that is all champion dependent. So let's go ahead and take a look at the map and see what paths we have and that sort of thing. Now all the paths start out in the middle. It's pretty cut and dry to navigate. There's not really a lot of teleporting, it's not all goofy, so you won't have to worry about that. There are 5 standard paths. Like I said, you'll loop around here, it doesn't matter which way you'll go, you'll loop around and then you will shoot off and teleport over to here. And you'll always have to fight Iceman and Doc Ock before you get to the boss, who is Green Goblin. So now the boss, like I said, is Green Goblin, and he is a tech, which kind of makes me think he was supposed to be a science champ originally, because that doesn't really match the class of the global node, which is how it's kind of been. So it makes me think he was originally supposed to be science and not a tech champ. So, but with Iceman, you're gonna definitely want to bring someone at full health because of the cold snap that you'll get on you. And Doc Ock, they also have the split atom node. So I'm not sure if that doubles up with the global node reducing all non-science champs, attack by another additional 50% or not. I'm not totally sure. But just to be safe, use a science champ on these 2 mobs. Most anyone will do, but I'll go over, who are the best for it later on. Now, path 1, I think, is the most difficult, at least it was for me. So I've made a video about that, so we'll go over path 1 in the video. But let's go ahead and take a look at path 2, which is, Power Drain and Spectre, and path 2 is this red path. So with path 2, you will need a skill key to pass. Now, Spectre is really not a good node if you are running Suicide Masteries, and the reason for that is because it will reverse heal you with your willpower. So if you're running Suicides, it would be a good bet to bring in double immune champs. Now, the power drain on this path only applies to being if you're hit with a special. So if you don't get hit with a special, you don't have to worry about it. If you are tagged with a special, it will drain 100% of your power. So let's go ahead and take a look at path 2 real quick. Now you will have class disadvantage here since these are all skill champs. So we come through Punisher. He's not really that hard of a fight, but you will take block damage off both his specials. It's easier to push him, bait out that special 1 over a special 2. You can always dodge the fist and just block the bullets. Be wary of the Endure at the end. You can bring in a mutant champ here to kind of counteract that split atom, but it'll help you out a little bit. Bringing a science champ, like I said, you'll have class disadvantage, but anyone will really do here. If you want to bring in Void, would be a really good option for that. Get those debuffs on them and just let them kind of tick away. Next we go to Moon Knight. So you might want to check what phase of the moon you are going to be in, because if you come here when he's in his evade phase, it's gonna be kind of a pain in the butt. So I wouldn't try to do this path whenever it's going to be a full moon, so keep an eye on that. But overall, Moon Knight's not really a hard champ. His special 2 is much easier to dodge than his special 1. Special 1's not hard either, but if you can, push him to his special 2. And then we got Karnak. Now the thing with Karnak is he's got a good bit of physical resistance, so just keep that in mind. Bait out those special 1s. They're way easier to dodge. It's almost kind of like a joke, his special 1. Don't push him to his special 2 unless you're good at dodging it. It can do a lot of damage, but any champ will work great against Karnak. And then we move on to Winter Soldier. Not a hard fight. We've been beaten up on Winter Soldier a lot lately, so definitely bait out those special 1s. It's easy to dodge. Just watch you don't get clipped by the bullets, get those bleeds on you. And then we move to OG Black Panther. Again, not a hard fight. Both of his specials are easy to dodge. Even bringing in a science champ here will work against him. He's not a hard champ to fight. And then we move on over to Elektra. Now be careful you don't get clipped too much by Elektra. If she gets you down to 25% or less, she's going to start hitting you like a truck. If you can push her to her special 2, it's a lot easier to dodge than her special 1. And then we got OG Daredevil. Remember, if you have specials where they're just projectiles, make sure you parry before you launch them. Otherwise, he'll evade them, and it's kind of a waste of a special. Then we move on over to Crossbones. Be careful with Crossbones. When he has his Furies up, he doesn't shrug your parry, so be mindful of that. Otherwise, he's not too hard. Bait out those special 1s. They're pretty easy to dodge. Then we move on over to Black Widow. She can be kind of tricky with her evades, especially if you bring in a science champ. She will evade you like crazy there. So for this, it might be best to bring in a mutant champ. That way her evades is cut down, so you don't have to worry too much about that. So this might be a good one to bring in a mutant champ to help kind of negate some of that split atom. And then we move on over to Falcon. Falcon, not hard, dollar store blade. Push him to his special 2. It's easier to dodge. If you can't if he just keeps wanting to throw those special 1s, just, you know, dodge the first part and then block the bullets. They don't do that much block damage. And then we shoot on over to Iceman, who I'll go over more in the video, as well as Doc Ock and Green Goblin. So let's go ahead and take a look at Path 3. So Path 3 is this yellow path right here, and Path 3 it's not noted, so you don't have to worry about that. It may be one of the easier paths, so you know, if this is your first time running through it, I would definitely suggest going with Path 3, because it also doesn't require any keys. So with Path 3, we shoot on up through here and we go through Ronan. He's not hard, just, you know, be mindful that you don't get stunned off of his special. And then through King Groot, again, he's not a hard fight. Just remember that when he has his Furies up, he can shrug your parry, so just be mindful of when he has his Furies up that he doesn't shrug your parry, number 1. Bait out those special 1s. They're a lot easier. If you are in need of healing and he has his Fury up and he launches his special 1, get clipped by the end of it. You'll get a permanent armor break on you and you'll be able to heal up. So, little trick of the trade. And then we move on over to Gwenpool. Gwenpool, she's not hard. Just be careful if you do get a bleed on you from her, there's a chance for her to stun you. So be mindful of that. Also, you know, if you think you're gonna kill her with a special, you're not. So just, unless it has like a damage over time debuff on it, I can't tell you how many times I've launched a special, put my phone down, and Gwenpool's over there punching me in the face. So then we move on over to Ultron. Ultron's not hard. We've been fighting him a good bit lately. Just remember, he regens at 50 and 20% health. So when he is about to regen, parry him. That'll stop him from regenning. Also, watch his evades. Those can be kind of tricky. I prefer baiting out his special 1 over his special 2, but that's kind of like dealer's choice. I think the beam is easier. And then we move on over to Angela. Now, if you have a heal block champ, you want to bring that for her. She has that constant regen, so keep that in mind. Void is really good for that. Just reverse heal her. And then we move on over to OG Cap. OG Cap, he's not a hard fight. What you want to do is, you know, just bait out those special ones if you're not great at dodging the special 2. If you push him to the special 2 and he launches the special 2, just dodge right before, or excuse me, dash back right before the shield is about to hit you. And then we move on over to Starkey. Now, Starkey can be kind of tricky, especially with his evades. So, you know, before you launch your special, make sure you parry him, bait out those special ones. You'll take a lot of block damage from that special 2 if you're not great at dodging it. Bringing an anti-evasion champ, though, would be superb for that. And then we move on over to Civil Warrior. Civil Warrior, not a hard fight. Both of his specials are easy to dodge. So he's just got to worry about that armor up. So if you can bring in an armor break champ, so if you bring in Cap with maybe a Cosmic on the team to get that armor break, or Cap Infinity War, excuse me, with a Cosmic on the team so that you can get that armor break, that would be great. And then we move on over to Loki. Loki's not a hard champ to fight. I prefer dodging his special 2 over his special 1. You can definitely punish it a lot easier. Remember, if he does throw his special 1, if you're kind of more towards the other end of the screen on your phone, you can't really punish it. Either he's going to parry you or he's going to hit you in the face. And then we teleport on over to Iceman, Doc Ock, and on to Green Goblin. Now, Path 4, it has adaptive and critical nodes. So adaptive just cycles through between, you know, physical and energy resistance. So if you have a champ that does both types of damage, then you'll be all set. But for the most part, this is not really a node that should pose you too much difficulty. The critical node, it won't be a big factor as long as you don't get hit. So again, we start here, we go through Ronin and King Groot. Now you will need a Mystic Key to get through this path, but you will have class advantage through this entire path. So keep that in mind. But we go through Juggernaut. So watch the Unstoppable, bringing in someone like She-Hulk, Spider-Gwen, The Thing, and Cap Infinity War. They can all prevent the Unstoppable, or counter the Unstoppable rather. So there's always that. Then we move on over to Mordo. If you can Quake. Quake is the best counter to Mordo. Watch when he gains his Furies. When he's charging his heavy and he gains his Furies, he'll start hitting like a truck. And then and he's got that power gain too, so you don't want to push him too much. And then we move on over to Dr. Voodoo. Now Dr. Voodoo, of course, will be regenning at the beginning of the fight. Bait out those special 1s over the special 2. They're easier, but Dr. Voodoo, not a hard fight. Then move on over to Iron Fist. Again, not a hard fight. Both of those specials are pretty easy to dodge, so whichever one you want to push him to. I kind of just like to go ham until, you know, he gets up a little bit past the special 2 to bait it out. And then you move on to Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange can be kind of tricky. Just be careful of his phases. You don't launch your special when he has his armor up. It won't do as much damage. So launch your special when he's got the Fury up, and watch when he's got his little, you know, power gain that you don't accidentally push him to a special 3. Then we move on over to Ghost Rider, and he's not a hard fight. He's pretty easy. Both of his specials are pretty easy to dodge. If you're not great at dodging the flames off his special 1, bait out those special, or excuse me, the flames off his special 2, bait out those special 1s. And then we move on over to Dormammu. Now, Dormammu is probably going to be the hardest fight on this path, with the exception of Juggy. If you don't have a right champ for it, you're going to get some degen on you, so you don't want to bring in a champ that gets a lot of buffs that expire, so you kind of limit the degen that you get on you. Bait out those special 1s. They're a lot easier than the special 2s to dodge, and don't get hit. And then again, we teleport down through Iceman, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin. So then Path 5, now Path 5 will require a science key to get through. And come on over, and this is the all science path. And these guys have spiked armor. And this is probably the second most pain in the butt because of the spiked armor, since it reflects damage back to you for every hit that crits. Now, using champs with low crit rates or that do more energy damage will help out a lot. Quake is the perfect counter for this path. Quake is a great counter to pretty much this entire chapter. So if you can Quake, bring her. Now, you can use Crossbones since he does not crit, and he will also have class advantage, so it'll help negate some of that split atom global node, since all of this path, is science champ, so you'll have the class advantage. So we first start off with Rhino. Now you definitely want to be careful of Rhino. You want to play him close, keep him in the corner so that he can't charge you and go unblockable. Be careful of the unstoppable though. If you try to intercept him when he's unstoppable, you're gonna get punched in the face. So now we move on over to Yellow Jacket, and Yellow Jacket's not too hard. The only thing that's tricky about Yellow Jacket is that power sting off of his specials. If you're not great at dodging his special 1, push him to his special 2. It's much easier to dodge. That's what I prefer to push him to, and I have much more success with the special 2 than the special 1. And then we move on over to World War II Cap. Again, just like OG Cap, bait out those special 1s. Watch you don't get clipped with the shield on that special 2, or he'll put a massive bleed on you. Then we move on over to Abomination. So you're gonna want to bring a poison immune champ in here. So it's gonna be kind of tricky now. Crossbones, he can shrug if he's got the furies up, so be careful, or make sure you have that. Otherwise, you know, a poison immune is going to be your best bet for that. And then we move on to Glancing Ant-Man. And this is where it's kind of going to be a pain in the butt, because you are going to get that glancing. And, you know, the glancing only doesn't count towards hits that crit. So this is going to be a test of patience. So and a test of endurance too, I should say. So just be patient with this fight. You will get him down. It's just going to take some time. And then we move on over to Quake. Quake isn't hard. Just watch out for those Quake charges. If you do get Quake charges on you, launch your special right before that timer expires so that you won't get stunned. And we move on over to OG Hulk. Now remember, as OG Hulk, as his health gets lower, he starts hitting like a truck. So be mindful of that. I prefer baiting out his special 2 over his special 1. It's easier to dodge. And I sometimes have a tendency to get stunned off this special 1 because I don't time it right. And then we move on over to Spider-Gwen. Now, when I went through this originally, Spider-Gwen was kind of a joke because she had a special 1 that was really just an evade. But now she can be kind of tricky. If you can, push her to that special 2. You can also bring in Spider-Gwen against Spider-Gwen, because if you hit her with the heavy, she won't be able to evade. Then we move on over to Joe Fix-It. Again, he's not hard. Both his specials, his special 1, the first part's easy to dodge, and then I usually just block the bullets. They don't do that much block damage, but his special 2 is the easiest of the 2 to dodge. That's usually what I push him to and try to bait it out. So anything like that'll work. Really, any science champ is gonna work great against him, or, well, not really because of spiked armor, excuse me, but Crossbones will be a great fight against that. Then we move on over to Electro. Now you want to make sure you're at full health before going into this Electro fight, because you are going to take damage back. So be mindful of that. And then again, we shoot on over and go through Iceman, Doc Ock, and Green Goblin. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at Path 1. Now Path 1 has Cornered and Power Reserve. So all of these guys here, they all have Cornered and Power Reserve, and that can be kind of a bit of a pain in the butt, right? All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Path 1, and the first mob we come across is Red Hulk. Now, all the mobs on here have Cornered and Power Reserve. And Cap Infinity War is a great option for this fight because he does a ton of damage. Now, if you've got 5 kinetic charges and can launch your special 2, the damage is just gonna roll. Now, with Power Reserve, you will be able to reach your specials quicker, and so will Red Hulk. So keep that in mind when you're going through this. Bait out those special 1s. Yeah, he'll start hitting like a truck, or you can push him to his special 2, and then he'll consume those heat charges. So just be mindful of that. But overall, this isn't a hard fight. I mean, you saw the damage that Cap took down with that special 2. Remember, when you're about to launch your special 2, what you want to do is parry heavy, and when you're halfway through your heavy, launch your special 2, and it'll do a ton of damage. But overall, Red Hulk, he's not a hard fight on this one. Oh, and I should mention too that be mindful with this is, since this is Power Reserve, that the mobs don't just start chain throwing specials one after the other. So keep that in mind so you're not too aggressive. Okay, so now we're moving on to Psylocke, and if you can Quake, this chapter is great for Quake. This path is great for Quake too. You won't have to worry about the power reserve or anything like that. So she is a great option for this. If you don't get hit and don't let them hit you, you'll be all set. Now, overall, Psylocke, she's not a hard fight. If you don't have Quake, there are a lot of other good options for it. Any high damage dealer is going to be great. You don't really want to bring in someone that's going to put a damage over time debuff on them. Or damaging damage over time debuff, excuse me, on them, because that's going to trigger the cornered and they're just going to gain power like crazy. So be mindful of that, who you're choosing before, you come into this path. But overall, Psylocke, not a hard fight. Now, OG Vision, this guy can be a giant pain in the butt because of his synthesis. Now, remember when we fought the Vision in 5.3.5 on Power Reserve, his synthesis was only like 1/3 of a bar of power. This guy's is like 2 bars of power. So this has to be a high sig OG Vision. So this is going to be a test of patience, of baiting out those specials, not pushing him to a special 3. If you feel like you're not that great at baiting specials or you're playing too aggressive, bring in a power lock champ. So Spider-Gwen, she's a great option for this because she gets Enervate. So if you can keep him enervated, so that's where he won't gain power unless he hits you, so you can just keep hitting him and he won't gain any power. So she's great for that. She does have power control. If you think you're going to push him to a special 3, you don't have Spider-Gwen, or you're not that great at baiting out specials, bringing someone like bringing a power control champ would be great for this. Now, you can bring in Magic. Yes, she'll suffer. She'll have her attack reduced by 50%, but she does get the damage over time with her Limbo, and that won't trigger the cornered, and you can just infinitely power lock him with the power reserve. So you'll be up to a special 2 almost instantaneously all the time. So you just keep hitting, power lock, hitting, power lock, and it'll be easy peasy. You won't even have to worry about that synthesis. It'll just be a little bit longer of a fight because the damage won't be there, but that's what makes Magic so great for this. So now we're moving on to Cable, and everyone has those champs that they just don't like to fight. And for me, it's Cable. I don't like facing this guy in Arena. I don't like facing him in Quests. I don't like facing him in AQ or AW. I just don't like him. And he's also kind of a pain in the butt on this node because Cable can get regen and he can also get power flood. So when you couple power flood with power reserve, it's kind of a giant pain where you're just going to be baiting out. He's just going to be throwing specials like crazy. Now, I like to bait out his special 2 over his special 1. It's easier to dodge in my opinion. But it's really all dealer's choice. I think it's easier. Be mindful of his heavies. You don't want to get that degen put on you. Wasp is great for this because she is such a hard hitter, and you'll be able to get up to your special 2 really quick, which does a ton of damage because of the power reserve. So keep that in mind. And you can also, with Wasp, what you want to do too is you want to do kind of 3 or 4 hit combos and then launch your heavy to get the maximum damage out of her. Now, if you're worried about, maybe getting almost clipped, then don't throw your heavy so that you can still evade and put the shock on him. Now that will trigger the cornered, but it won't be too bad as long as he doesn't have power flood up as well. Okay, so now we're moving on to Hawkeye. Now you will have class disadvantage here when it comes to fighting Hawkeye if you bring all science champs on, but luckily Hawkeye's not that hard of a fight, so you could bring in some really heavy hitters like Cap Infinity War. He's really great. OG Hulk. OG Hulk is another good option for this path because the lower in health he gets, the harder he hits, and you'll see why he's good later on as we move on to the bosses. But overall, Hawkeye's not a hard fight. Really, any champ will work against him. She-Hulk would be another good option since she can get those Furies, stack all those passive Furies. The Thing would also work really well if you can play him offensively. He can do a ton of damage. He can get up to, I forget how many, but you can build those passive Fury stacks and just go ham. And plus, with Power Reserve, you'll be up to your special 2 with Thing in just about no time flat. So now we're moving on to Vulture. In Vulture, he's really not a hard fight. Definitely bait out those special ones over the special 2. They're a lot easier to dodge. Again, if you can quake. Even with my really not that great quaking skills, you can still do it, trust me. But really, any champ will work against Vulture. He's not a hard champ to fight. He does have that armor, so if you can bring in a champ that armor breaks, that's good. That'll help break that armor, make your make you hit harder. Excuse me. So, but any champ will really work fine against Vulture. He's not that hard of a fight. Now, Hyperion. This guy. He's probably one of the harder fights on this path because of, the main reason is sometimes Hype can be super cooperative and sometimes he can be super stingy when it comes to throwing specials. So keep that in mind when you come in here. Bringing in a high damage dealer is always a good option, like Cap Infinity War. He's great for this. Void is also another really good option for this fight. But you could also bring in Spider-Gwen, get that Enervate on him. She's another good option. Luke, if you feel like you're gonna eat a special 3, like I did right there, you can bring in a duped Luke Cage and get that indestructible and just make sure that Hype doesn't get up to another special 3 before your indestructible comes back. So keep that in mind. Luke Cage, he's another really good option for this. If you don't have someone who can counter that, any good science, bringing in Magic would work here too. She would have the class advantage. So again, she would negate some of that Split Atom, the global node. A duped thing will work too. Just make sure you have the protection up before he launches his special 3, so you only take, a little bit of damage there. So that's another really good option for this. So now we're moving on to the Hood, and this really isn't another hard fight. Hood's pretty simple. Once you get him to throw his special 1, he just starts chain throwing them. But again, if you can quake, you've got no worries here. But any champ will really work well against Hood. You just don't want to push him to those special 2s, don't want to get him invisible, and you'll be fine. And his special 1 is pretty easy to dodge. So just keep baiting out those special 1s and it'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so now we're moving on to Iceman. Now Iceman is unnoded, so you don't have to worry about any nodes. The only thing you have to worry about is that cold snap. So make sure you are fully healed before you come into this. OG Hulk is great for this fight because the lower in health he gets, the harder he hits. But both Iceman specials are pretty easy to dodge. Be wary though of Iceman when you parry him when he has his ice armor up, that he can shrug it and may punch you in the face. So just be mindful of that when you parry him with his ice armor up. But overall, Iceman's not a hard fight. Just, watch you don't get that cold snap or frostbite on you after the initial one. You can see he had his ice armor up right there when I parried him and he shrugged it. So just keep that in mind. Don't push him to his special 3, but really any champ will work against him. If you have an armor break champ, then you can keep his ice armor off. You can keep him armor broken, excuse me. Then you don't really have to worry too much about that, and you'll always consistently do the most amount of damage on him. But Cap Infinity War, he's another really good option. He's great for most of this path. OG Hulk, She-Hulk, she's really good for this too with those furies that she can build up. So there are a lot of really good science champs out there. Okay, so now we're moving on to Doc Ock. Now, Doc Ock has Split Atom, Power Gain, Heal Block, Special 2 Bias, and Enhanced Special 2. Now, this guy seems like he's got a lot going on, but he really doesn't. She-Hulk is great for this fight because she gains those passive furies, so she starts hitting really, really hard. Now, just because it says special 2 bias doesn't necessarily mean that he's just only gonna throw special 2s. I've baited special 1s out of him. So just keep that in mind. If you're not great at dodging his special 2, then you can definitely bait out those special 1s. He will throw them. Also with She-Hulk, she'll put a taunt on. So any champ that's gonna put a taunt on to help get that special 1 out is great. Or a champ that's gonna, power drain or, enervate like Spider-Gwen. Okay, so now we're moving on to the boss, Green Goblin. Now he's got Split Atom, Enhanced Incinerate, Enhanced Abilities, Power Gain, Parry, and Recovery. So he can parry you, so be careful of that. Now, he's really not that hard of a boss. It seems like he's gonna be difficult, but he's really not. Again, OG Hulk, with the lower in health he gets, the harder he's gonna hit. So he's a really good option for that. Just, you know, chain throw those special 2s, even build up to the special 3. He'll do a ton of damage off of that if he's pretty low in health as well. You could also bring in Void for the heal reversal. So, you know, keep that in mind. Void is really good for this fight, or excuse me, this path as well. So if you have, you know, a high sig duped Void, he's gonna do you pretty good here. There are a lot of champs that will work well against him. If you have a damage over time champ, you know, definitely bring one of those in. And also remember too, Void is Incinerate immune. So even though he hasn't enhanced Incinerate, if you would get clipped by that special 1, you're not going to get the Incinerate on you with Void. But overall, Green Goblin, he's not a hard boss. You just need to be patient with this fight because of the power gain. So you don't want to push him to a special 3. But that is it, guys. That concludes 5.3.6. Fitting punishment. Let me know in the comments below, will you be using this spreadsheet? Have you gone through 5.3.6 yet? If not, who will you be using? Will you download the map? Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and let's discuss. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you guys liked what you saw and you want to see more, please remember to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and hit me up in the Discord chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.